Finding them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Pokemon, oh, you're my best friend in a world we must defend. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. Our hearts so true, our courage will pull us through. You teach me and I'll teach you. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon.
What is going on, everybody? It is a sad day. A very, very sad day. A company, a brand, a product, a series, or whatever it is that I have much love and investment in has become a sham, a fucking embarrassment of their former selves. Now, of course, I had to start this off with our little old school feels intro, the one that we all know, the one that you old school Pokemon fans know and love, the ones that we grew up hearing over and over and over. Now, what are we talking about? To break it down into the quick little version before we go into much, much more detail. You all probably remember the current iteration of Pokemon Sword and Shield on Nintendo Switch, and many of the controversies surrounding it. Of course, one of these ones being, well, the fact that for the first time ever in a mainline core entry Pokemon RPG, the national dex had been cut. That's right. They're roughly half of all existing Pokemon in the base versions of these games. So, many people, myself included, have been fairly pissed off about this, especially considering the whole premise and the last 20 odd years of, well, I guess it would have been 20 years at the time, of Pokemon hinged on the whole idea that you gotta catch them all, that you can catch them all, that you can bring everything forward. In fact, up until the most recent games, before Sword and Shield, you could bring, through various different methods, you could bring your Pokemon from your original Gen 1 cartridges from the 90s, from the Game Boy, through different games, through different platforms, through different services and whatnot, all the way up to the modern version. And you could get all of them into there. As a perfect example of this, where am I? What did I play? I think it was Alpha Sapphire. My Alpha Sapphire has almost every single Pokemon in existence, or at least in the game. That's right. I transferred everything you can do. Mythical Pokemon, legendary Pokemon, timed event Pokemon from different versions of, say, blue and red, from gold and silver, the variant differences, everything. I think it's 700 and something Pokemon in that game. I'd have to double check the number again, but I think I'm only missing 2 available Pokemon by the time I stop playing it in that game, because I could move everything forward, because the whole crux of the series is gotta catch them all. Now, I am fairly, let's call it, lenient, especially when it comes to some of the more modern ones, because let's face it, putting 800 Pokemon in, and, fair enough, whatever, but you have to have all the previous games, you have to have them in all the previous games, especially when some of them were only given away in events and stuff like that, codes, special events, whatever it was. For example, let me give you a quick one. In my original Pokemon Red file, I had a legitimate Mew, one from a Nintendo event, one of the few that they ever ran in Ireland. I beat the resident Pokemon Master that they had, and they gave me a legitimate Mew. Now, not everyone has that ability, so what I would have liked to see was, with all, let's call it Sword and Shield, Pokemon Gen 8, to have the ability to catch them all in the game, to have a nice expanded world, to have them all in the game, to be able to catch them all and acquire them all in the game without having to go through 20 years and multiple different platforms and systems of Pokemon. Not to mention the dozens and dozens of hours you need to put into each game in order to get all these Pokemon and then transfer them up and across. So when they announced that Pokemon Sword and Shield, for the first time ever in a mainline core game, like I said, would cut the Pokedex, the national Pokedex, by over half. Was it over half? It's around half. I don't remember the exact number. I think it's like 430 out of 4, or 430 out of 860 or 820 or 840. But this understandably pissed a lot of people off. And this was almost trying to be kept hidden, because up until about 2 or 3 days before launch, the Japanese market didn't know about this. None of the Japanese outlets reported on all these leaks that exposed all this Dex cut, or Dexit as they call it, because apparently Brexit memes are all the rage. Then again, they do say that Sword and Shield are based on, the UK and whatnot. But back to the point here. This was not communicated to them at all. In fact, it probably wouldn't have been communicated at all to even the English-speaking Western market if it wasn't leaked months in advance, or weeks in advance, whenever it was, in advance. That's the big thing. And of course, mass outrage, mass hysteria, dogs and cats living together, human sacrifice ensued. Justifiably so, in my opinion. Now, this was met with, I'll paraphrase this, but basically Nintendo and Game Freak and the Pokemon Company saying, get used to it, fuck you. Because they said that going forward, there will be cuts. They had always planned, allegedly, to do cuts at some point, and going forward, you can expect cuts in every mainline Pokemon game. And of course, they doubled down on it and said all sorts of stuff like, it will be impossible to balance. Guess what? I've been here since Gen 1. It's always been ridiculously unbalanced. No one cares about balance. Now, on top of all of that, we have a little bit more. We have the rest of their response, where they, let's say, covered their own tracks, or tried to, and failed miserably. They tried to give out all these bullshit little extras and all as well, to say, reason 1 why we couldn't do this, reason 2 why we couldn't do this, reason 3, reason 4, reason 5 why we can't add all of these Pokemon in. Despite them having, actual proof that they imported all the other ones, their higher quality animations, where a Pokemon just stands there and goes, and yeah, that's apparently a higher quality animation. And they had many different reasons that they claimed, which of course were all bullshit, that they couldn't do this anyway. And of course they said that going forward, that not only would there be the cuts in the next games coming out, but that there would be no additional Pokemon added, and there were no plans to add them down the line. Of course, as you would expect, this is all bullshit based on what we found out today, or yesterday if you want to go with an even better leak, because last night, before, it was roughly, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 hours before the Pokemon Direct earlier today, one of the official Nintendo Pokemon accounts tweeted out a GIF with a Pokemon in it that's not available in the base versions of the game. Yikes. Of course, that was promptly deleted, and they updated the GIF with ones that were already in the base game. But yeah, we pretty much knew what was coming. And it's pretty much as we feared, because as announced earlier today, the Pokemon Company, Nintendo, Game Freak, whoever you want to blame for it, I blame all three of them. They have announced that for the first time ever, there will be paid DLC, a paid expansion pass for Pokemon, mainline Pokemon entry core games. Now it gets even worse. All those claims, everything that I said previously, wow, I fucked it up both ways. Previously and prior. Yeah, they just said, they're basically going, haha, fuck you, we lied. So, what they're doing is they are paywalling. Now, someone is going to say, oh, they're not paywalling, you can do this, that, and the other. We'll get to that later. They're basically paywalling 200 plus of the removed Pokemon behind, well, like I said, a paywall. because you have to get them in these new DLCs. This expansion pass that they're selling is £27, $30 or €30, and it includes 2 DLCs, one of which will be out in either June or July, and one of which will be out in autumn of some point in 2020. Now, remember all those bullshit reasons they had and bullshit reasons they said? And we don't plan to do any of that stuff. Yeah, you just kind of fucked everything over. Remember all these reasons that you said that, oh, high quality models, high quality animations, we can't just import stuff from the 3DS. Yeah, that's all proven to be bullshit. This is something that they said they couldn't do. It's something that they said they wouldn't do. And yet, here they are. When did it launch? November. December. January. Here we are. 2 months after launch, and they're already backtracking on it. It's clear that this shit was removed intentionally, not for the bullshit reasons they spouted out, but specifically to remove it, to sell it to people later. I, for one, will not, absolutely 100% not be buying these DLCs. In fact, if you remember all the streams I did of Pokemon Shield when I played it, once I finished the game, and I did a very, very small, maybe like 20, 30 minutes, bit of post-game content, my drive to play that game for the, you know what, I was going to say for the first time ever, for the second time ever in a mainline Pokemon core game, or at least one that I didn't hate, put it that way, is completely drained to zero. Not even with today's info and today's announcements, but my interest in the game just completely waned. Practically instantly. As soon as I was finished, it was basically, finally, this is over and done with. I had originally intended to go back and play it, do some more, but, well, it just didn't happen. So, that speaks volumes about it. But, it's so funny, because you see so many people, so many Nintendrones out there defending this. They always said, oh, Nintendo does DLC right. You call this doing DLC right? You cut out, what, 50% of existing Pokemon in existing ways just to sell it to us later? And the Nintendrones are thanking Nintendo, and thanking Game Freak, and thanking the Pokemon Company. They're saying, oh, they listen to us, they're righting their wrongs. This is absolutely in no way righting their wrong. This is arguably much worse, because not only are they adding them in, they're paywall adding them in. Now, I mentioned that we'd talk a little bit more about the paywall situation. Because of course, someone is going to be out there and they're going to go, oh, Q, you don't have to buy the DLC if you want to get them. You can just do whatever you want to trade for them. The fact is, they're paywalled for at least one person in the world, to distribute all of those. Because, of course, yes, you can trade them from, you can use the trading system and whatnot too, if you don't have the expansion pass, and you can do that to get all the other ones. But it's still paywalled overall. If, in theory, technically, no one in the world bought that, they are paywalled behind it. Not to mention, their addition into the game is paywalled. Oh, I don't understand how the fanboys defend this. It's absolutely ridiculous. Why are they thanking them? It's like, oh yeah, you removed that content to sell it to us later. Thank you for selling it to us later. Are you fucking for real? Why are people defending this? You are sending the message that this is okay, that this is all right. What happens if down the line, maybe Gen 9 comes out? Oh look, they're down to 150 Pokemon. Then there's a new expansion pass that adds 2 new bits of content and all. And what happens? Maybe you get 100 Pokemon each. Because remember, with these 200 plus additional Pokemon, it's not even bringing it up to a full national Pokedex. What are we going to do? Have expansion pass season 2 in the following year? The end of 2020? Start of 2021? Are we going to have a second expansion pass to add in the rest of the 200-ish Pokemon. This is madness. This blows my mind. How can people defend this? And on top of it, it seems to just be, I don't know even what to call it. I can't call it Switchamania. I can't call it Pokemania, because clearly the legitimate, actual, long-term, lifelong Pokemon fans were originally the ones outraged at the whole Dex situation in general at first, because it's fucking with the series that they love. It's lowering the quality. And of course you had all the fanboys that were just there. Oh no, yeah, only the real fans will blindly lap it up and accept it and buy it and whatnot too. Now don't get me wrong. As much as it annoyed me and whatnot, it killed me. I bought the double pack of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I played through Pokemon Shield all the way up to completion of the main story and a tiny little bit extra. There was so many glaring problems with the game, but overall it was enjoyable enough for the base core version of it. But to go back to something I said earlier, this is the first mainline Pokemon core game that I didn't hate, because I absolutely despise Pokemon Sun and Moon. And the sooner they were over, the better. In fact, when I played Pokemon Moon, I got almost the entire way through the game. I didn't realize I was about 2 hours from the end. And I quit for like a year. I was going to say like a month, but no, I quit for about a year. Then eventually I went back to it, played it for 2 hours and finished it. I'm like, oh my god, I was right at the end. And I never, ever, ever went back to it again, because I fucking hate Gen 7. But Gen 1, I put countless hours, obviously. I can't even put a number on it. Gen 2, same way. Gen 3, same way. Gen 4, even though I only recently finished it for the first time because I was kind of burnt out when it first came out, I finally finished it all these years later, and I started going back post-game. Why? Because it was enjoyable. I had a drive to play it. The quality was there for what was released at the time. The extra features, the post-game content, all of that stuff was appropriate for its time. Gen 5. In fact, I'm actually kind of only playing Gen 5 at the moment. Here it is. Pokemon Black. Playing through now. Want to finish that for the first time. As I expect, when I finish the game, I will likely go back and do more post-game. Why? Because it's enjoyable and it's a reason to play it. It's proper quality content for the time. Gen 6. X and Y completely reinvigorated the series for me. Put hundreds of hours into it. I'm pretty sure if I booted up my 3DS with that in it now, I would have 300-ish hours in it. Minimum. No, you know what? We'll go with minimum 200-ish hours. But I'm almost certain I would have 300-ish hours in Pokemon X and Y. Why? Because quality. Love and care went into the game. Quality, features, content, appropriate. It felt right. Of course, Gen 7, worst gen ever. But Gen 8, actually, you know what? I'll just throw it in there as well, because we have Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby, depending on which one you played. I played Alpha Sapphire. Alpha Sapphire was one of the best ones in years. Again, like X and Y, I put over 100 hours easy into that game. To the point where, like I explained at the start of this video, I transferred all my Pokemon from Gen 1 through Gen 2, through Gen 3, through Gen 4, through Gen 5, through Gen 6, the base versions of 6 even, all the way into Ruby and Sapphire, because I loved it so much. It was so proper, it was so much quality, it was so appropriate. They put all of that effort in there. And then we won't talk about Gen 7 because fucking Sword and Shield, or Sun and Moon. But the fact is that, imagine that. I spent all that time going around catching all that extra stuff. Why? Because I wanted to play it. It was a quality game. They obviously put it all into it. They gave me a reason to play it. They didn't give me a reason to hate it. They didn't half everything. They didn't cut everything down. Nothing was done to a bare minimum or removed. Or, well, I suppose one or two smaller features have been removed on a game-per-game basis. But none of the larger, more important features have been removed and just casualized. And I wouldn't say casualized, but replaced with casualized versions or replacements that just didn't hit the mark at all and were just completely all over the fucking place. This is an embarrassment. Gen 8 is an absolute embarrassment. Between everything wrong with the game in general, the decks cut, how everything was handled. Now with this paid DLC and everyone who's supporting this, it's absolutely ridiculous. Everyone who says that this is the best possible outcome for the disaster and fiasco that is Gen 8. No, you know what the best possible one is? Add them all in for free. Why? Because they should have been in there in the first place. You actively removed them to sell it to people, nickel and dime people later down the line. That's the only reason you removed all of this. Clearly, all your bullshit reasons have just been exposed as lies because you went against all your little lies, your little reasons and whatnot too. In fact, 1 or 2 days post-launch of Pokemon Sword and Shield, modders had already started putting in some of the original 151 Pokemon. So let me get this straight. Modders, single individual people with, I want to say arguably, but well, it's not going to turn out that way. I want to say arguably less experience and less knowledge and know-how than these teams at Game Freak. They can do this in 1 or 2 days as a single individual person, and these whole teams can't. There seems to be a little bit of inconsistency with your story. There's more plot holes than a Nintendo Switch game. No, you know what? I'm going to back that one up. I apologize for that one. I can do better. There's more plot holes than a Kojima game. There we go. That's far more appropriate and far more fitting. I just think this is absolutely ridiculous. And going forward, imagine what we're going to see next. I'm not even going to talk about the whole mystery dungeon games because I just don't know about them at all. I don't really care about them anyway. But, hey, Wolf, welcome. I see you're in the middle of catching me in the middle of my spiel. But, yeah. It's been one of the most poorly handled things in Pokemon history. So just remember, I want to point a couple of things out before I end this one and whatnot too. Game Freak lied, as the trend has been. They have proven to have lied multiple different times, and now they were exposed by themselves for the most egregious version of their lie. None of what they said was true. None of what they said was the real reason. The real reason came out today. It's so that they can nickel and dime you an extra 50%. And not only on top of that. So yes, by the way, when I say 50%, most places will have the game at like €60 or $60 or whatever. The expansion pass is €60 or is €30 and $30. And not only that, there are new exclusives. So if you have both versions of the game and want to properly get them in both games and whatnot too, without just having to resort to pleb trading and whatnot because, well, they're paywalled properly in the first place, you have to buy it twice. Now, some people, of course, will go back and say, oh yeah, but Q, at least they're not releasing, you have Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, and then you have Pokemon Yellow, the middle complete game. You have, what was it, Gold and Silver, and then, was there one for Gold and Silver? There was Alpha, okay, let's go with Gen 3. There was Ruby and, there was Diamond. No, Diamond is an existing one. I don't remember that one. Gen 3, Ruby and Sapphire, and then you had Emerald. People are saying, oh, well, Q, at least they're not going with Ultra Sword, Ultra Shield, or some middle ground. I don't know, maybe we all know the Pokemon Gun meme. Maybe they'll do that. I gotta catch up on this. 1 second. Games like Xenoblade 2 give you bang for the buck. Unless you want a quality frame rate or resolution, then you don't get anything for Xenoblade 2. But Tish. Is he joking? Is he not? Of course he's not. But back to my point. People are trying to defend this and say, oh yes, we can pay this €30 instead of buying a new additional game. Or a new complete middle ground game. Or you could have demanded they were in there in the first place. Like they should have been. And like they could clearly have been in at this point. I mean, let's face it. They're 2 months in. 2 months post-launch. And they're already touting 200 plus models. So let's say this comes out, I can't remember if it comes out in June or July. December, January, February, March, April, May, June. Let's say July. 7 to 8 months. In 7 to 8 months, they can add a whole new additional area, a whole new additional region, if you will. Obviously, it won't be as big as the Galar region. It will be a little bit smaller. But there's still going to be a proper big introduction to a new area. They can import all these I want to say new character models, but all these character models. They can create several new Pokemon, several new legendary Pokemon, new gym leaders, new battles, new dialogue. They can basically pretty much just design new areas, new everything, giant portions of what would have been the original game, and 200 plus Pokemon. And they can do that in several months. I'm starting to see a big bullshit pattern here. But, well, we've covered that anyway in the meantime. So people tell us, yeah, but who actually bought? Yeah, I mean, I know that is the problem. You bring up a good point, Wolf. That people will talk all the talk and bullshit them. Like I said earlier as well, I freely admit that it would have absolutely killed me to have not bought and played a new Pokemon mainline entry, because I've loved the series for 20 years. Love pretty much every one of them, except for Sun and Moon. But yeah, at least they know, at least with the backlash, the vocal outcry, everything, at least it registers that there's a problem, that there's an issue, and that people are unhappy with this. But I can't even say that the Nintendo player base and their voice is drowning out the proper legitimate complaining. Or criticism, if you will, because complaining just sounds, oh, people are just complaining. No, but they're rightfully and justifiably criticizing these negative impacts of quality on their series that they know and love and have probably invested 20 years in. So yeah, that can be a little bit of a problem. But thankfully, this doesn't go down. And, I will admit, I do, as much as I've tried to stay away from it, the whole fanboy thing with the Nintendrones and some of the other ones this year, the Sony, I don't know why they call them Sony ponies, and the Xbots and whatnot. The more I tried to get out, the more they just drag me back in. And situations like this are perfect examples of how I just get dragged back in and I see all that bullshit. But luckily, in this case at least anyway, for every 5 or 10 Nintendrones I see, I'm seeing hundreds, literal hundreds of people on the other camp. Because at the end of the day, you don't support a company fucking you over. You don't support a company nickel and diming you. Unless, of course, you're part of the cult, the Nintendrone cult, because that's what they do. And, of course, these people are obviously anti-consumer and pro-corporation, at least as long as that corporation is Nintendo, or Game Freak, or whoever the fuck it is, the Pokemon company. But let me just face it. Let me just bring it down to one thing. As much as because we're about to end up now here anyway. But as much as I hate Pokemon Sun and Moon, Gen 7, not Gen 8, because that's a whole other story. But as much as I hate Pokemon Sun and Moon, during Gen 7 and, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon and whatnot too, I didn't feel ashamed of Pokemon. I didn't feel embarrassed by Pokemon. I didn't feel embarrassed by Game Freak, by the Pokemon company. I didn't feel embarrassed to be a Pokemon player or about the quality or state of the game. I just really, really, really disliked it. However, with everything involving Gen 8, Sword and Shield, and now especially everything today, I am legitimately embarrassed to say that I spent... I won't say that I spent 20 years playing Pokemon, because obviously 19 years of that was so much fun in pretty much every way, and some of it I wouldn't trade for the world. But it makes you almost sick and embarrassed to see what a franchise you know and loved has become. What it can get away with. Partially because of everyone supporting the Wii 2, aka the Switch, with the Soicon Wiimote 2.0s, the standard definition games, and not getting real games. But yeah, people are enabling this by doing everything that we've talked about in this video, by buying it, by defending it, all of this stuff. Now, having said that, I'm going to round this video out with one little additional part. Remember how I said that over these 20 years and all, pretty much 19-ish years of it, I've completely loved about Pokemon and everyone I've met about it, so much I've played about it, the experiences, everywhere I've gone, everywhere people I've played with, everything I've done, the games themselves, the Pokemon, catching them, those moments where I don't know, maybe you're trying to catch one of the legendaries or something like the legendary dogs who move around. Fuck, those were pain. Latias and Latios, again, stuff that moves around. Nightmares. You finally find them again after hunting for them all night. Your battery's almost dead. Your Game Boy Color or whatever you're playing on, and you finally get it. You're holding it. You're down in B because, of course, every single Pokemon player, or at least anyone worth their salt, knows that you have to hold down in B in order to up your chance of catching a Pokemon. And then finally, you get it. You get it, you catch him. That feeling, stuff like that. Stuff that can't be replicated pretty much any other way and all. Yeah. All of that is basically completely gone after the last 2 generations. And I say that as someone. We're going to look at legitimate 151. Because that's how I do. Legitimate boat Pokedex completed. Again, that's how I do. Because that's what I do. Haven't even opened it. By the way, Gen 2, best Gen. My cousin at the moment has my Gen 3 Sapphire. But we got Diamond and Pearl, Gen 4. Black and White, Gen 5. Currently playing Gen 5 Black. The first proper arguable sequels. Still Gen 5. Gen 6. Stuff that revitalized it completely for me. What else we got? Oh look, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Amazing remakes in the brand new, at the time, fantastic Gen 6 engine and mechanics. Excellent games, remade in excellent ways. One of them, like I said so many times this time in the video, to the point where I have pretty much every single Pokemon in existence transferred into those games at the time. What else we got? This is the wrong box. We got Pokemon Sun, Pokemon Moon. Pieces of shit. Maybe Game Freak has completely lost their way. Ultra Sun. Haven't even opened it, as you can tell, because fuck Gen 7 and fuck Sun. And fuck Gen 7 and fuck Moon. And of course, we have the latest travesty. Pokemon Shield, Pokemon Sword, and this. And this. And all of that, pretty much all of that legacy that's sitting behind me right now, has basically been shit all over by this company. That's basically it. Clearly all these actions, everything they're doing, all these business decisions, everything. They're clearly saying that now we know we can release trash. We can cut every single corner. We can fucking remove, disapprove, disappear, everything. You will still fucking buy it. Well, guess what? I'm probably done. Imagine me saying that after all of this. Hundreds, thousands of hours. Hundreds, possibly even thousands of euro. Fuck you, Game Freak. Fuck you, Pokemon. Fuck you, the Pokemon Company. Fuck you, Nintendo. And fuck everything that you've become. And you know what? Just because. One more time.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was.
No, I'm not miming it.
To train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Each Pokemon
Too much memes. Too much memes.
You teach me and I'll teach you.
Pokemon. No.
Catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all.
There's so much feels with that song. And it's basically all thrown away. Because business, casuals, and fuck 'em all.